Kashtira is finally here. While it might not be in its dominant form that led to its less than great reputation in the TCG and OCG, the deck can still get up to some very unpleasant things with the help of some dubiously unlimited extra deck monsters in Master Duel. Even if it's not the most practical thing you can be doing in this format, it's still pretty fun. Although it might not be very fun for your opponent. Now here's an example of the sort of standard combo line. Now to get a basic TOMAHAWK combo going, you just need 2 level 7s, but to get the full end board in this list, you need a way to access 3 level 7s over the course of your combo, which isn't too much to ask. The entire deck is level 7s. So of course, to start off with, just go ahead and summon Kashtiras, use their effects, and mainly just get 2 level 7s on the field at first to make Galaxy Tomahawk. Specifically summon Tomahawk in the main monster zones because you need specifically 3 main monster zones empty for Auroradon, because this deck does do Auroradon things. Hope you didn't miss this one. We go O-Lion to make Danglong. Now importantly in this list, we do not search with Danglong because there really isn't anything valuable to search with it. We can go ahead and level modulate, make Barone, then make Yazi, pop Barone Yazi with Barone to trigger it and Chiwen, summoning Vishuda and Chiwen. Then we Singer Summon the Cupid Pitch, increase its level to make Borrel Savage Dragon, getting another Omni Negate and searching off Cupid Pitch. Good old Nemesis Corridor. We use Corridor, put back the Chiwen that was banished by itself to summon Colossus. We summon level 7, make Shangri-La. Now in this hand we get even an extra level 7 access, so we can go ahead and make a Fenrir. Then in the opponent's standby phase, we can go ahead and trigger Shangri-La. They will Ash it. In this case I choose to not negate the Ash because the Unicorn or whatever I was garbing off of Shangri-La just isn't very high value, and I'd rather keep my 2 Omni Negates. Because I want to think of this deck, it makes strong boards, but it does only have 2 negates, so you have to play smart with them. This board does really rely on Colossus being effective, but it's Colossus, so it usually is. And this is why we save the negates, because they have 1 evenly matched. We can negate with Savage, and then, immediately afterwards, they have a 2nd evenly matched. So thankfully we saved one of those negates, because we can just trigger Barone, and we get to actually keep our board. Even though it wouldn't have been a complete game over if evenly resolved, we could have kept Colossus or Fenrir and been fine, and we have follow-up with Ogre. Because the Kashtiras really do help this deck's grind game. We go ahead and summon Unicorn, and then trigger Rise Heart. I use Maxi, but it's pretty unnecessary. The duel is more or less finished, because Unicorn can't search anything because of Colossus. The extra deck Rip, and I use this time to banish the Unicorn face down, just to keep him off of many level 7s. They rip the Shangri-La, but it doesn't really matter, we zone lock when they're zones. At this point, Kashtira, the zone locking isn't that important. You can annoy Pendulum players, that's about it. I summon a Unicorn, and go for lethal. Now here's a quick duel to show that this deck is still pretty competent even against decks that aren't exactly traditional. Now here I'm going first, and I have a pretty standard hand, and I'm just going to go through the normal motions. You'll notice I keep opening the Garnets like O-Line. I'm specifically playing a couple copies of them, because if you draw one of the Garnets, the deck just stops working. And so while it does suck to draw them, there are cards like the Fur Hirelink that you can kind of make use out of them. And I'm fine with drawing O-Line if it means I can do the things the deck is made to do. But here, just going through the motions, these kind of combos are ones you're going to have to memorize. They're not that hard to learn, thankfully. There's only a few steps, and they're pretty resembling normal Auroradon things, so if you've played those kind of decks, it's not new. This deck in general is not new. Armed Dragons have been doing this for a long time. The Kashtiras, I would say, make it better, just because cards like Fenrir help going second a lot. But everyone knows what this is already. Basically, from the moment you could put 2 level 7s in the field, you can do this. So here I do the regular things, but activate preparations just in case I can hand rip. They draw 2, I choose not to negate it because my thinking is I can just negate whatever they activate. And then they set 5. And so I'm kind of regretting not negating the desires, but You know, hindsight's 2020. I attempt to summon from deck, they use Maxi, and I specifically do not negate Maxi because I am only planning to summon once, and they have 5 back row. Like for example, Secret Barrel, so I don't want to waste my precious negation on a card that has very low impact for them. So they use Secret Barrel, and my thing is this won't do too much burn, so I'm letting it resolve. Just because it's probably the least impactful burn they have, 2600, I get the hand rip preparations, and they use Ring of Destruction. Now here they target Colossus because they don't read cards, but even if they did target a card they could destroy, I would reasonably be able to negate that, and then negate one of their other burn cards down the line. If all 5 of these would burn, it might be an issue, but it does end up being fine. So Ring of Destruction does not go through because Colossus just protects itself. I hand rip card of their hand, go and try and zone lock, they trigger Just Desserts, and I do negate this because this will burn me a ton. They go ahead and use Ceasefire, which I also negate because I am thinking this last trap might be burned, so I still need to have enough health to survive that. I'm also a little worried about the set card maybe being some kind of burn card, but called by means I should be able to stop whatever graveyard effect it has. So I just go ahead and pop it with Barone. I changed Borderlord Savage to defense because I have lethal already, and I'm thinking this might be a Mirror Force, and I'd like to keep the gate for later, but it ends up being nothing. So even through a bunch of burn cards, the deck still can win. One thing to keep in mind as a deck is it's not completely dead in the water going second, and that's something the Kashtiras are very good at helping out with. Now here my opponent is playing Labrynth, with Fenrir's as a generic card. They'll go ahead and do the Labrynth things, set some traps. Not too many, I'm guessing this hand was not great, but a Fenrir and 2 set traps is still very much a problem. Evenly helps a lot, but you'll see in this duel it actually wasn't too impactful. For the most part, the Kashtira engine is what won this match. I go to battle, and the lab player knows what's happening, so they play around it. I activate evenly, they keep the Fenrir, so I have to deal with a banish, but I have so much gas in the hand. I have Unicorn, Psybeast, Rise Heart, Instant Contact. I can play through plenty of interruptions. Even if they had more than 1 trap, I would be able to do a lot more. In a deck like this, with as flexible of summoning as it has links, sinkers, and exceeds, I can play around a dimensional barrier pretty well. And one card that helps a lot with going second is Big Eye, because you can just steal their monsters, and it's great for stealing Kashtiras, which you can get advantage off of. Go ahead and activate Instant Contact, and my opponent surrenders knowing they're dead. But even if they did have an actual real back row, there is plenty of gas to push through it. Now for just a quick run through the deck list. One thing to keep in mind, this deck list is definitely not completely optimized. It's roughly thrown together like last night, but it works. You will notice the large amount of extra copies of Garnets I'm playing. That's because if you draw O-Lion or Chiwin, a large chunk of your combo just switches off. And sure, you can do normal Kashtira things, but then your deck just doesn't do much. So I'm fine with trying the Garnets, and cards like Donner make it a lot less painful. The only Garnet I could play more of is I could probably play an extra Tenyi, but these are only really relevant if you have 3 level 7s. If you only have 2, then they don't really matter that much. Still, I think it's fine. Staples like Evenly are great for outplaying going second. The Kashtira engine is very good at it, but having that extra oomph really does help. And I'm playing a bunch of level 7 extenders like Instant Contact, Center of Thunder, Psybeast, Rise Heart. Rise Heart's interesting in this deck because while it does lock you into Xyz, that's only if you special summon it by its own effect. If you just use it as a normal summon, it doesn't lock you into anything, so it's basically just a better Psybeast. The reason why I'm not playing 3 is because I'm a cheapskate and I don't want to craft a 3rd one. But if you really want to invest in this deck, then you can just replace the Psybeast or another level 7 extender for another Rise Heart. Cards like Nemesis Corridor are just there for the combo. Called by stops hand traps, just usual things. This is a deck that has been around for a while in the form of the Armed Dragon version. This is just basically using what is, in my opinion, a better level 7 engine than Armed Dragons. The Kashtiras are less good at extending, but the actual monsters themselves do a lot more. As far as the extra deck, there's a few flex spots. Cards like Zeus and Donner aren't necessary, I just really like them. I think they're good for, winning if you can't immediately go into Tomahawk, because I don't want this deck to be too reliant on Tomahawk, because it's a very easy negate. And as one thing, this deck does struggle a lot against hand traps, it always has. The only nice thing is that Tier and Sprite have made low power hand traps less popular, and low power hand traps stop this deck in its tracks. But because a lot of people are playing blowouts like evenly instead, you can usually afford to get your full board before your opponent gets to interact with you. In general, this is not a meta-defining deck. Realistically, the pure version of Kashtira is probably more practical. I just chose to play it because I had the cards lying around, and it's still pretty strong. It's a way to make use of Kashtira cards before the good support drops. Which point, stuff like a Rise Heart makes a deck what is probably going to be the best deck in the format. This is just kind of a fun experiment to use cards that don't really have a place right now.